We thank you for the day. We thank you so much for allowing us to be here. We thank you for the love that you share with us constantly every day. And Father, this morning we just want to love you back. We want to honor and adore you this morning. Father, we do that through our song, through our attendance, through our reading of your word, Father, through communion with you at the table. We just pray that everything we do will be those things that please you this morning, and that you will be glorified because we're here. We pray all this in your Son's name. Amen.
The children's church.
We do have a special mission today.
Sorry about that. Real quick, I wanted to relate to you a message from Gaurav Babu. He's the minister that we support in India. In southeastern India, they're having major flooding going on, and all the villages that he ministers in have all been hit. Houses are being destroyed, crops are being destroyed. So, these people are the poorest of the poor already. So keep Gaurav and his ministry team in your prayers, and those people that are brothers and sisters in Christ over there who are going through this tough time right now this week, if you would. Thank you very much. Church.
Yeah, please help.
I'm trading my sickness. studying Exodus for the last few weeks here in church, it's kind of brought back to my mind some of the roots of the communion process, the meditations, and the time that we have with the Lord today. Before communion became what we know it as now, communion had been part of the Passover meal, where Israel remembered how God passed over them, how the angel of death missed them when God was punishing Egypt for keeping Israel in slavery. And when Jesus took the bread and he broke it, when he passed around the cup, what he did is he transformed something that showed how God forgave once. He showed how his blood was so much better, not just forgiving us and missing us once, but saving us for all time. How God passed us over through the death of his Son. How he forgave us all of our sins all at one time. And as we come into a time of communion, it can be easy to just take the bread and the juice and forget the history and the power behind what it is. But Jesus, on that day when he instituted the Lord's Supper, he co-opted something that had meant so much to so many people and made it even more than it already was. Because the blood of the Lamb that protected them is now the blood of the Lamb, Jesus Christ, that protects us for all time. And doesn't just protect us, but it reconciles. It brings us back to God. And so as we enter into a time of communion, just reflect on how God has forgiven you greatly and passed over your sin and offered us salvation through Jesus.
Let's be in an attitude of prayer. Father God, as we partake of the broken body represented by the bread and the blood represented by the cup this morning, allow us to understand that love that was broken and shed on the cross. Help us to understand and absorb the love in the resurrection of the Christ, that we might be passed over, yet toward the death, that we are saved by the blood of Christ. We ask this in Jesus' name.
Amen. rise in prayer. My Heavenly Father, blessed be your name. Thank you for you give us food to eat, air to breathe. You love us so much. We just thank you that we was able to labor this week. This morning we bring back a portion, further your kingdom, to spread the light for those who do not see. We just ask you to bless this offering in your very precious Son's name, Jesus Christ.
Exodus chapter 20. Went over last week, the first part there, you shall have no other gods before me. Verse 4 says, you shall not make for yourselves an idol in the form of anything in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of their fathers to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. So you shall not make for yourselves an image. Story told about a missionary who lived as a small child near an airport. And he watched the planes take off every day. And he said, I wonder where they're going. Wonder where that one's going. I wonder who's on board. And as he grew up, he said, one day I'm going to fly somewhere. And as he was a teenager, he had the honor of being able to go on a flight to Florida and visit his grandparents. And he said, man, that was the coolest thing, to be able to fly and do that. And one day, I'm going to fly somewhere far away. Well, as he grew up, he became a minister, and he had the chance to then fly to India and do some mission work. He said he flew to India, took him some time to get there, He says, once we got there, I think I went as long on a train as I did flying there. He says, and then they put me on this thing that I think the word means death. It's a rickshaw. He says, and they took me for hours on this thing into the remote areas, and I come into this little village, and in this village, the first thing I see is a man plowing land by using this disc and an ox. And he said, I'm not in America anymore. He said, I got the privilege of being able to go into the homes and sit down with them and see things. He said, the first home I went into was the home of a lady and her child. He said, and it was just a very modest little, he says, I believe it was about 10 foot by 10 foot. The entire house. He says, but sitting there in the middle was this table. And on this table were several items and candles burning around them and things there and incense. And he thought, how strange. And the lady asked him if he'd ever been to India before. He said, no. But I noticed that you have idols. And she started to explain each one. Well, this is the God of fertility, and we're praying to Him that the land will be fertile, that we can grow our crops, we can do this. This is the God of rain. We're praying to Him that He'll rain on us and do these other things. And she started going through and explaining all of their little idol things. And he said, wow, well, that's interesting. He said, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been to America? And she said, yes. He said, when? She said, oh, a long time ago when I was a little girl. He said, well, do you think you ever want to go back? And she said, no. And he said, no, why don't you want to go back? She says, you have too many idols. And she began to explain the idols she saw in America. She said, when I was there as a little girl, I got to go with some friends of our family, and we went to this great big parking lot. And we sat chairs around the back end of this car, and they cooked a pig. She says, and then we ate the pig, and then we put on this garb, and we went into this great big huge building, and people acted like idiots. She says, and I don't understand what happened, but a bunch of men were running up and down a field. She says, and every now and then the whole crowd would stand up and go, yay! And other people were screaming and hollering through the whole thing. She says, I didn't understand it. She says, but then someone explained to me that it was a form of worship in America. Then she went on to explain that the house she stayed in, she watched the man next door every day go out, vacuum out, and wash his car. She said, I was waiting for him to kneel down behind it and kind of pay homage to his idol. She says, no, I don't ever want to go back there. Too many idols. And isn't it funny how they perceive things? She ended her story by saying, and then they have this one God that they bow down to for hours. She says, you walk in my house and here on this table are my little things, but they're all before something in my life that would help my life be better. She says, and yet they have a table in their house and they have this thing that lights up and they'll sit there for hours and stare at it. Now, we know what she's talking about, don't we? You know, the TV, the whatever. But she says that I didn't get it. We watched for hours men take a stick and hit a ball. And they thought that was fantastic. And she explained all the things we do. And this minister said, I just stood there and I thought, she's right. I have come to your land to teach you about God and about having no other idols or no other graven images or nothing other than that God. And you taught me that we're worse than you. He said that night we had a long conversation about her idols, what they were, and we went through scriptures, and we went through the 10 Commandments, explaining what they were. He said, and we came to an agreement. She is going to try and change her life and be better and worship just this God if I would go home and just worship God. Now, it's interesting as you look at this commandment, as you read about it, what it is. Because it says, you shall not make for yourselves an idol in any form in anything in heaven above or on earth beneath or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. The great philosopher Peter Neath said, since the time has begun, man worships. We are all in unceasing worship mode. Worship is the continuous outpouring of all that I am, all that I do, and all that I can ever become in the light of a chosen or choosing God. Here's the big idea. Everyone worships all the time. Atheists are worshipers. Buddhists are worshipers. Agnostics are worshipers. Christians are worshipers. People who are living are worshiping. Everyone who's living is always worshiping, pouring themselves out for someone or something. That's what we were made to do. That's what we will always do. The only difference is who or what we worship, when or how we worship. The question is not, do we worship? Because we do. The question is, who? Who do we worship? I'm putting this together and I'm thinking, gosh, I spent probably 3 hours, 4 hours the other night binge watching this show. You know what binge watching is. You watch episode after episode and catch up to everything. And I'm thinking, I wonder if I spent that much time today with God. Did I give God equal time? I mean, the show is really of no importance. Yes, I like it. Yes, I like to see it. It interests me, but it's not of any importance. It is not going to get me from here to there. It's just not. And so I have to look at the things, and as I was reading this, putting this together, I hope you know this, I get a whole lot more out of my sermons than you ever will. I have to look at my life and say, oh gosh, am I doing this? Have I made something an idol that was in heaven or below heaven or underwater? Have I made something more important to me than God? See, last week we learned no other God but God. And so if we've got that, now we have no idols. In other words, we don't worship anything else. Nothing else takes precedent over God. Nothing else comes before the one and only God. So I ask you the question, is that true in your life? Is that true in everything that you do? Vito works electrical work. When he's at work, is God foremost on his mind? See, if God's foremost on his mind, then he is going to do the best for his boss. Because his boss is paying him to be his best. Now, Vito and Brittany might have had an argument this morning, and Vito might not be at his best. But when he gets to work, what does Vito have to do? His best. No matter what else goes on, he has to do his best. And if we live life by that, then how would we be with God? See, because if I gave my life to God, I didn't give my life to my employer. Maybe I did. Maybe we did. But I didn't give my life when I was working at Gator Electric. I didn't give my life to that employer. I gave a certain amount of time for a certain amount of money, and then I went home and life was mine. But in the midst of that was God there. When you're shopping at Walmart, is God there? When you're playing ball, is God there? When you're visiting family, is God there? See, because what this is telling us is there's no other God before God and there's no idols. Nothing comes between us and Him. Nothing is more important. I mean, sometimes I think food is, but it's not. Sometimes I think fun is, but it's not. Sometimes I think that binge watching that show might be. It's not. There's nothing that I can do that is more important than God. And if that is true in my life, then how much time do I spend with Him and not with these things that are around? See, because when I read that story about that girl in India, I can understand it. I have a big foam Bears hat at home. I have Cubs hats. I have different things that you wear stuff to for your team. And sometimes it might seem that that's more important than God because we wear so much of it and do stuff. But it can't be more important than God. It can't be something that I worship. You see, I stood back there this morning and listened to Steve talk about communion, and I was looking at the table, and that is worth worship. I don't know a single Bears player that died for me. I don't know a single Cubs player that got me salvation. I don't know any TV show that's going to get me from here to there. But that is. That is worthy of it. You see, as you study this worship thing, you're going to find something out. I was created in His image. Why was I created in His image? For what? To worship Him. I was created in His image so I can kind of see Him so that I could put my worship where it belongs. In Him. I was wonderfully and perfectly made by a perfect Creator who put me here for a reason and a purpose. You see, I say this all the time. You're not sitting here this morning by accident. If you believe in God, He brought you here for a reason and for a purpose. And maybe it was a song we sang. Maybe it was just to have communion today and get on that level with Him. Maybe it's to hear this sermon so that we can get the clutter out of our life and that we can focus on Him. But I'm wonderfully made in His image, and I was born to worship Him, not something man-made in this world. And if I don't get that, all I have to do is look at Jesus. Wonderfully and perfectly created in God's image, He was God. And if I could look at that image and follow that example, where would I be today? See, I was telling people earlier, Creflo Dollar said, if you want to be and understand everything in the world, be Jesus. Now what he meant was, I can't be Jesus, but I can be and follow his image. I can be and follow and be like him, so that the more I'm like him, the more I can understand this world and this life. The more that I can see God, the more that I can understand what his premise and what his purpose is for me in this life. You see, I fight me every day. And I don't know if you do that. But when I get up in the morning, I have my list of what I need to do. And all it takes is a mere phone call to change that. To redirect your day. You ever have days like that? You know, Thursday, going down, heading down the road, phone rings. One of Camille's friends' grandfather died. Now we have to make plans for a funeral. Now we have to decide what's going on, so it changes your focus where you're at. Every time that phone rings with a call like that, you know what it reminds me of? I'm one day closer to being right there too. And I've got to make sure that I do it right, so that when my day comes, when it's someone calling you to tell you that I've passed, I've done it right. I've worshiped him and him alone. I've chosen one God to follow and lead me, and that will lead me home. That's my hope, is that I do it right. And not just me, but I stand here to tell you these words so that you too can have the ability to do it right. Not by what I'm saying, but by these words. You shall not make for yourself an idol, in any form or any fashion, in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. Understand those words? What does jealousy get you? Upset? Ulcers? Angry? It sometimes makes you think things that aren't true, but you think them. And so there you are. God says, I am a jealous God. Jealous to the point that I don't like it when you worship something else, because you were created to worship me. And if you worship something else, he says, punishing the children for the sin of their fathers to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me. Of those who choose something other than God, I punish. Because Ken, you were created to worship who? God. Nothing else. Not your garden. Not your wife. True. Not your house. Just God. And we were all created that way. We are worshiping beings. And if we're not worshiping God, we will worship something else. So we have to get it straight. But listen, he doesn't only just punish those who get it wrong, but he says, but showing love to those 1,000 generations, to those who love me and keep my commandments. I mean, there's a punishment and there's also a reward, isn't there? For doing it right or doing it wrong. We can't have any other idols before him. We can't have anything that directs us away from him. We can't have anything in our lives that gets in the way of us worshiping him. The only perfect, sinless human being to walk this earth. The only one worthy enough to die for yours and my sins. Jesus was born to take away our sins. And the means in which to do that was prescribed. It's in the Old Testament, prophesied. It was carried out in the New Testament. He died on the cross, shedding his blood to cover our sins. Show me something else or someone else or anything created that can do that. Scripture tells us there's no way to the Father but by Him, the perfect sacrifice. So this morning when we sat here and they passed these emblems amongst us, what we said was this: I have no other God before God. I have made no image, and I worship nothing else but Him. Is that true? Is that the statement you made this morning when you picked up that little piece of bread and that cup? When that bread and that cup have now become a part of you, is that what you meant when you took it? You see, because we have to live the life that God has given us to the best of our abilities for Him. If it came down to it today, I choose Him, not you. I'll choose Him, not my kids. I'll choose Him, not my wife. If everything was taken from me, I would still choose Him. Because only He is worthy of my worship and my praise. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate my wife, I appreciate my kids, I appreciate the life God's given me to live, but I know that He expects me to do it right. Not only does He expect me, He expects you to do it right. To have nothing else before Him. No graven images, no man-made things as cars, TVs, houses, boats, golf courses, I mean, you name it, nothing else before Him. Nothing else before Him, not even Disney, who thinks they are the center of the world. Nothing before Him. Look at your life this morning. Is that you? Maybe you're here this morning and you've never given your life to Christ, and what I'm talking about is foreign. Well, then we want to talk to you. We want to share with you. If you have questions, come and ask them, because we want you to understand this God and this Jesus that is the center of the universe. That is the most important thing you will ever choose in your life. It will change who you are. It will change the way you live. Because if you love Him, you can't help but follow. Or maybe you're here this morning and you've chosen Him. You've chosen that to live for Him. And the question is, are you? Do you have idols standing in the way of your worship of God? Do you have things in your life that are more important than Him? If so, it hinders you from truly worshiping Him. Did you pay attention to the words of the songs today? Did you see all that we sang? Because they were all about who He is. It's all about what we came to do. We came to worship Him. See, this morning it's not about us at all. It's about Him. It's about sharing with Him the same love that He shares with us every minute of every day. It's our feeble attempt to try and pour out that kind of love back to Him. we can't do it if we're not His. We had in Sunday school talking about Ananias and Sapphira and how they cheated the church. And the author said there's 3 things we can do to try and get it right. And the last one was, don't be a fake. Don't be a fake believer. Be true in your worship to Him. Meaning you can't come here and put on that face. Christian, see me here? I mean, I've done it right. I even had coffee and donuts. You know, I'm a true Christian. Whatever it is that you... And go out those doors and live differently than what you proclaimed here. Because I stand back there and as I sing the songs, that's me singing the words to God saying, I'm here to worship you. No one else but you. My life is yours. Go through the songs we sang and look what they said about Him and about what we are here for. And that's what life is, and I can't go outside that door and live otherwise I'm a hypocrite. Ananias and Sapphira said they were going to give everything they got for this piece of land to the church. They got more money than they thought they would give, so they decided they would only give so much that they thought they would get for the property and keep the rest. When asked if they gave all to God, Ananias said yes, and immediately dropped dead for his sin. Sapphira came in shortly afterwards, and they asked her the same thing. Is this really what you got for this piece of land? Yes. She too likewise dropped dead because of her sin. Because they were hypocrites, because they lied to God. Gang, this morning, we know, in the last 2 weeks, no other God before God, no idols before Him. That's the way life has to be lived. If it's not, if we proclaim it and then not, we lie to God. Do we then also deserve death like Ananias and Sapphira? We've got to get it right. We've got to get it straight. No other God but God. No idols, no images, no anything that we would worship other than God Himself. The only one worthy of our worship because of the love and sacrifice He's made for us. So this morning, first time ever believer, we're more than willing to welcome you in, to bring you in. If you're sitting here and you're a long-time believer, the question is simply this: are you living that way? Are you His 24/7, 365? You see, the reason you wake up in the morning and the thing that takes you to bed at night is God, your all in all. We're going to give you a chance to make a decision with that, with our invitation, as we stand and we're seeing if you have a decision to make. Make that your promise. 12, for Christ alone. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the day. We thank you so much for allowing us to be here, allowing us to share our love and adoration of you with you. And Father, we just pray that we were pleasing to you this morning. Father, just now we ask that you go with us, that you will give us the right words to say and the things to do as we meet people. Father, help us to show them you in all things that we are. Pray all this in your Son's name. Amen.